today is Randall Wiggins. He is one of the nurses I enjoy working with in the ER. Very passionate, very hardworking, very focused. And Randall, how you doing, man?
Good to see you, Dad.
So, Randall is an unusual guy. He's very crazy about numbers. And I'm sure if you've seen any of my things, I've done some stuff on numbers. Crazy when I was in Hawaii last week. Someone was asking me what's 98 times 87. I said 8526, and so on and so forth. And Randall is extremely good with numbers and a lot more other things. So, Randall, let me ask you this. You bought an i3. He loves cars. And you know, men with cars, it's a very interesting combination, right? And he's an RN, emergency room nurse. You just bought an i3, a BMW.
Yes, sir.
So tell me why you bought that car. It's a unique car. I rode in it with you, with my family. Tell me why you bought that car.
Well, for a couple of reasons. One is because I enjoy the efficiency of the car.
Okay. Very
And
efficient with
it's
fuel.
Extremely efficient.
Awesome.
I haven't purchased gasoline since December
Wow.
of 2018.
He hasn't purchased gasoline since December. For those of you buying, I'm not advertising for BMW. They got to pay me something before I do that for them. But there's some things about this guy that I want you to know. And some things are actually going to save some of our doctors' lives who have plenty of money. So, that i3, you think I should buy one for myself?
It depends.
It depends. I have a Tundra, big 5.7 liter truck, which consumes a lot of gas. But not only does Randall do cars, he likes cars, and he likes fast cars too. So he also has this unique thing about physics. Randall loves physics. See, I love physics. I still want to go back to a college and teach physics. And we were talking one day, and he was the first person that met me at the same place who was not an engineer dealing with cars every day. And I said, wow. And he said, yeah, doc, this. And he gave me some of the momentum numbers, and we started talking. And that's how we really clicked. And we've worked in not this ER only, but some other ER, correct?
That's correct.
Exactly. So, but there's one thing about this guy that I still find extremely fascinating, and that is you just bought a plane, a Cessna. And, you know, and he told me and one of my other friends who I've interviewed here that he was polishing the wings. I thought when you buy something like that, it's so delicate, you got to take it to the shop to somebody. But he was polishing the wings of that plane. So, Randall, let me ask you this. Did you buy that plane because you had so much money hanging around you didn't know what to do with it, or because you had a passion for flying? Why did you buy that plane?
Not only do I have a passion for flying, but my oldest son does as well. I wanted to fly since I was a young person, and we really couldn't afford it. And one thing I've found in life is it's not how much money you make, it's how much you spend. And so, like with the i3, instead of wasting money on fuel, I don't do that anymore. Both places I work let me charge for free, so I don't even pay for the electricity.
Wow.
So that's a convenience, but it saves money. That puts money in, it's available for other purposes.
Okay.
And then my
So with
son,
this plane, tell me a little bit about this plane. I'm interested in knowing about this plane because we're going to come to something here that I think is going to save the life of a couple of doctors that we know that have planes.
Well, this plane's fairly basic. It's just a couple of people, and it's not terribly fast. But my son works on airplanes, and we purchased the airplane. We've done most of the work ourselves to.
So there's some work that you guys did on the plane. That's scary for me to put some money, a lot of money, by the way, buy something, and then have to work on it.
But all planes have to be worked on every year.
Every
They have
year.
to have an annual, which is a very extensive inspection.
Okay.
And so even if you bought a brand new 2020 plane today,
Yes.
in 1 year,
Okay.
you have to have an annual done. And that's an extensive amount of work.
Yes.
And, you can pay to have that done.
Or you can
or
do
you
yourself
can do
and
it
then go get it
yourself and
inspected.
have it inspected. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. So again, it's not because we have tons of money, but we just decided to put the money in an area.
And so I heard you saying something about when you looked at how much, if you were going to be traveling every now and then, how much money, because I want you to listen to this carefully, that even though it seemed like it made sense to just be driving to airports and flying, that when you calculated it, and I remember I said he's pretty good with math, so he nailed it down. And for those of you who are not good with math, nail something down to a point where you can actually see the numbers. Right brain people hate numbers, okay? And they'd rather the building go down in flames than calculate what it would cost to buy one fire extinguisher. That's what I feel. So Randall calculated the numbers, and you failed to work. Tell me.
So
with the plane,
we
yes.
live about 1 hour from the nearest place you can go get training. Although
Yes.
there's an airport less than 2 miles from my house.
Yes.
So we decided instead of driving an hour each way plus paying $200 to rent an airplane,
Yes.
and $50 for an instructor, that we would buy the airplane.
Wow.
Because my son and I, if we both get our private pilot's license, we'll have spent less money than we would have spent to get the license, and we will own the plane as well.
Wow.
So it's
And how many hours?
money and time.
How many hours are you looking at if you were to not buy your plane and you have to get an instructor to train you, and you'd have to pay independently?
So typically you fly 40 hours is the minimum to get your private license, but most people fly about 55.
Okay.
And so at $200 an hour, that's $11,000
Per person. So that's $22,000.
Just to
For
rent
you and
the
your
plane.
son, it will be $22,000.
Then you have an
Just-
additional 20 to 25 hours with an instructor,
Yes.
and that's $50 an hour.
An hour.
So that's another 1,000,
250.
1,250.
So for two, that's 2,500.
So that's
we're looking at almost
$25,000.
$25,000.
That's correct.
Yes.
And so we will have purchased the airplane, paid the instructor, paid for the fuel, had all that work done, and we would have less than $20,000 that we spent.
Wow. And so, having bought this, since it's going to be a short video, just for people to know you, because, you know, I'm interviewing some really great personalities. So, what would you say? I've heard, you know, and you've seen some of our doctors have died in plane crashes. Your doctors, smart guys, fantastic guys. And you said something the first time you got my attention. What Randall said is, you know, when you're going to a place in your vehicle, in your car, and it says 30 miles to empty, and you say, you know what, the next gas station is 10 miles. You just keep on driving. But on a plane, it's a little different. Even though it says 30 miles to empty, and the next filling station may be 10 miles, you may have wind at 20 miles coming at you. Right. So before you get to the 10-mile station to fill and refuel your plane, at 9 miles, you may run out of fuel because there's a wind coming at 20 miles against you. So imagine what happens when you're a mile away from your fueling station and you run out of fuel. And I want to, you know, just say something there so our docs and some of our friends who have private small planes like that know exactly why many of these crashes, I think that's why many of those crashes occur.
I think that there are 3 things that don't help you in an airplane. Yeah. Runway behind you, altitude above you, and fuel that you don't carry.
Okay.
And many times people don't really know themselves, and because they don't know themselves, they don't make good choices. And they've been successful at making money, they've been successful at school,
yes.
They're excellent physicians,
yes.
And many times they're distracted, they're not focused on what they're doing, and those things are important. The details are important.
So 3 things, give me 3 tips for particularly my docs with planes, 3 ones. This is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do.
Well, I would say this. So if you are an OB doctor and someone asked you to do an abdominal surgery that you've never done,
yes,
you would immediately say no if you hadn't done it.
Yes.
Just because you can afford an expensive fast plane does not necessarily mean you have the skill level or training to fly the plane appropriately. Also, having gotten away with not paying attention to some details. You don't have that opportunity in an airplane. If you don't pay attention to every detail,
you're drop dead.
of course,
Yes.
you're in deep trouble. And I thought all pilots knew this, but I had a conversation with a doctor who told me that he wanted to buy a twin-engine airplane. And he said, "What's the best airplane?" And I gave him my opinion. And he said, "Because I don't want to run out of fuel again. I used to be a pilot, and I took off on a flight. And they said I could go 4.5 hours, and after 3.5 hours, he ran out of fuel." And I was shocked because it doesn't matter how many engines you have. If you run out of fuel,
You run out
you're
of fun.
done.
Okay.
So that's a simple thing. The other things I would say is get there itis. You know, if you have a schedule, this is an old saying: if you have plenty of time, you fly. If you're in a rush, you drive. Because sometimes people make bad choices. I can get around this storm. I have the skills to do it, and things don't always work that way. So certainly paying attention to detail is important. And then the other thing is, just because you can afford something does not mean it's appropriate for what you need to do. You can afford a $5 million home, but if there are 3 people in your family,
You don't need that.
not necessary.
Awesome.
And
Thank you
so-
very
Yes, sir.
much.
Yes,
Randall,
sir.
awesome.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure to have
Yes,
you here.
sir.